The Go Radio Football Show with Burger King. Watch live at 5 p.m. weekdays on YouTube. Join the conversation on 0808 17 17 700. Talking Scottish football first.
Good evening. So Scotland lose again last night. It's a friendly 1-0 to the Ivory Coast. Nicolas Pepe scoring in the first half. What did you make of it? Were you there? Give us a call, 0808 17 17 700. The other defeat, as you know, was to Japan, but Japan beat England last night, and the English fans are far from happy. But Craig Moore is with us, along with Aiden McGeady, so two international stars. Evening, guys. Good to have you with us.
Paul, how are you?
Good, thank you. Aiden.
Right, Paul.
Craig, you said last week it's going to be tough for Scotland. You predicted two defeats.
Well, I've kind of, with Japan, Paul, I've seen a lot of Japan over the years, obviously because of the region that I come from. And I think they've improved across the board, as I said last week, that technically they've always been top level. But they've got a physicality about them. They've now got a ruthlessness in front of goal about them. So it was no real surprise to see them do well in both their games. Maybe an eye-opener for Scotland. But like I said, Japan are a very, very good side with some great players doing it at the very highest level. And
Ivory Coast last night, they were always going to be tough, Aidan. We had some really good spells. We'll hear from the manager. But I always think it's really hard. I'm not making excuses, but in a friendly game, you know, we did the hard yards. We've qualified for the World Cup. You don't know whether to stick or twist in these kind of games ahead of a World Cup.
In terms of selection, you mean?
Yeah.
I think, look, the country's in a very good place just now. I think obviously going to the World Cup for the first time since France '98 is massive for, you know, the players involved. But I think before a World Cup, you do want to see a little bit of a change in form, a little bit of momentum leading into a World Cup, and at the minute that's not quite happening. The game against Japan, I agree with Craig. Look, I think Japan, I'd be surprised if they don't challenge for a World Cup in the next 15 years. I'd say they've got the right infrastructure there, the players that they have, and the way they teach them from a young age. But yeah, I do think that you'd expect a little bit more from Scotland in these games leading up to the World Cup. But again, you've got players who are fighting for a place in the squad which the manager's given a chance to prove themselves. But yeah, ultimately two disappointing games.
You look at it's disappointing for Scotland, there's no doubt about that. Look at one of the hosts, the USA, struggled with two games as well, lost both their matches heavily to Belgium. So again, and the pressure that's going to be on America in terms of this particular tournament. Scotland are able to go to this tournament and really go and express themselves in my opinion, because listen, there's expectation, or there's standards that you put on yourself, isn't there, as a group in terms of trying to get through the group stages and all that sort of stuff. But they've just got to go and enjoy themselves. Probably the disappointing thing in the two friendlies is, have we learnt anything more about the fringe type of players?
The hearse, people like that.
I mean, you know, Leonard Miller, I know he's not played a great deal, but you know, was there an opportunity that was maybe missed in terms of seeing some of these players in?
But that's what I think these friendlies are actually for, though. But when you're not really taking that opportunity, I think it's a difficult one. But there is a lot for someone who's done so well with Scotland. There is a lot of pressure on Steve Clarke.
Of course, and of course his future. We don't know what's going to happen. In fact, he doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Still no contract talks, I don't think. This is what he said last night after the game.
I want to concentrate on the World Cup. I'm sure if something happens, you guys will know. If it doesn't happen, I'm not bothered. I want to get to the World Cup. I want to be in the right frame of mind. I want my players to be in the right frame of mind. What happens will happen.
It sounds
finished. I'm not talking about my contract anymore.
That's it. No more chat about it. Look, I get it both ways. I don't know, Craig, because if the SFA sign him up for another 2 years or whatever, then, and if we don't start well, we know that'll be a disaster. If we don't anyway, I get it. People will pile in and say, why did you give another contract? On the other hand, if we do well, and even on what he's done, he deserves another crack at it, if he wants it.
I think what it boils down to is whether or not Steve Clarke wants to continue.
But he said he's 50-50 a week ago.
That was 25-75, 50-50.
That's right.
But look, he has done a fantastic job. There's absolutely no doubt about that. For any national team coach going into the World Cup with their contract expiring at the end is not unusual, let me tell you.
Right.
It's not unusual. There'll be quite a number of coaches that it's coming to the end of their cycle, Paul. But fight and talk from Clarke. He doesn't want to talk about it. He wants to make sure that he can prepare his team with that noise not being anywhere near the table, and that's probably the best way to go about it for me.
Aidan, you understand that? Yes, you can.
I think it's totally understandable. I don't think I think the way that Scotland are playing, look, and there's a lot of external noise, I think, about Steve Clarke and his style of play, regardless of how well he's done as Scotland manager. If I was the SFA as well, I would be waiting till after the World Cup.
Yep.
Yeah, I would be as well, because you could go to the World Cup and look, I think the Euros was a poor tournament for Scotland. But if you go to the World Cup and you perform poorly again, but you've just offered the manager a new 2-year contract, people would be up in arms about it. So I think you are best waiting, to be honest with you.
Should we take some calls?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I haven't mentioned Ireland or Italy yet. Can you believe it? A World Cup in America, and the Italians are not there, and the Irish.
No Ireland, I know.
Aidan, you had so many caps, 90 odd caps. I mean, it's it's almost hard to believe. We'll come back on that shortly, but let's go on a big Scotland Celtic fan, Newcastle fan. Gary is on the line. Hi, Gary. Good evening.
Evening, Paul. Evening, guys. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Tip
Gary.
top.
Get it.
So what's in your mind? Where do you want to start?
Yeah, obviously with the Scotland
Yeah.
games, we've had a couple of friendlies now. We've had a couple of chances to see what we're all about after the highs of November and in the Denmark game. And to be honest, I was kind of underwhelmed last night again. With us slightly better in the second half, I felt we really kind of started to come onto a game and we were unlucky not to get the goal. But for me, listen, we can't rest. We can't live off on the Denmark game for the rest of our lives. It was a magical night in November, but at the same time, we've got to take that step up. And I totally agree with Andy Robertson's comments after the game when he was saying about he was disappointed with the fans booing on Saturday and a section of the fans booing last night. I totally agree with him, because when you look at the results and the teams that have played, Japan and Ivory Coast, they might not have been the most glamorous of teams to play, but at the end of the day, they have got great results. Japan obviously went to Wembley last night and beat England, and Ivory Coast obviously won at the weekend. So, they're going to be tough games, and the reason we're playing them, obviously, is that we've got teams that are similar to them in the World Cup. So that's the whole point about that. But for me, I just think, I think the fans need to get off the players' backs a wee bit, because what disappointed me mostly about this camp is the fact that I felt like there should have been certain players picked in terms of when you look at the top 6 in Scottish football. I think there was something like 5 players picked. No Hearts players, no Motherwell players, stuff like that. So I feel like Steve Clarke could have probably risked a wee bit more by picking certain players. And it just seems to be the tried and tested that we already know what these players can do.
Sure. Aidan, what do you feel about that?
Look, Gary, I agree. I agree with you totally. I do think that Steve Clarke's selection policy, he's very, very loyal to the players that have got him there, possibly to the detriment of players who deserve to be there. Because I think that what you've said there, players from Hearts, Motherwell, if we're looking probably, say, for example, Anthony Ralston, he's second, third choice at Celtic just now, but he has second choice right back for Scotland. I do think these 2 games were a massive opportunity to try new players. I know he brought in Finlay Curtis, which again probably goes against the grain of Steve Clarke's thinking. There were other players that I felt deserved to be in that squad. So I do agree. I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity to see players who you think could really affect that World Cup squad.
We talk a lot about the Hearts players who, we know Lon Shanklin injured and Craig Gordon, but Craig Halkett would have a claim for it. Motherwell, I mean, I know he's now in his 30s, but Paul McGuinness having the season of his life. Now, you know what Grant Hanley's going to do in the squad or whatever, and he'll be on the plane. But why not give somebody else a chance, even a cap or what? Not a cap, but to be in, you never know, Craig.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. And sometimes you can be surprised when you give these players an opportunity that all of a sudden the level, and the coach can see that already in training and how they present themselves just in terms of within the squad. There's a young lad, funny enough, just a similar situation what we're talking about, but in Australia, a boy, 18 years of age, coach was not even dreaming of playing the boy. But when he went back to Australia, trained and the way he presented himself, the coach says, I have to play him. Yeah, 18-year-old debuted in his last two games.
How did he do?
He done very well. They won their games. But what I'm saying is that, and I agree with Aidan, that there's probably an opportunity missed. When do you next find out? I think it's Kudasau, the game leading in, but that's going to be with the squad that's going. Yeah. Bar any unfortunate injury to any player. So you kind of missed an opportunity to see potentially what else.
What about the fans booing? There was I think most people weren't last night, but this is what Andy Robertson said after the game.
Fans that were appreciative of what they've seen, appreciative of a team that have took them to a World Cup, and the reception at the end was unbelievable. So it's only a few people. Now, I don't know whether it's just they just want to boo for the sake of it or whatever, because for me that's not a booing performance.
No, I don't think it was, Gary. I think we all agree with you. But you could say it. Of course they're entitled to it. Come on, we're off to the World Cup. I mean, so many of our listeners weren't born when Scotland were last there, playing Morocco, June 1998. Crikey, your career was just getting underway. Aidan,
I was
I
at
think.
France.
Yeah, you were. Where were you?
Yeah, as a fan.
Yeah, you were in
Scotland
'98.
fan,
Yeah,
I was. Yeah.
These two played against each other. Gary, don't. I know you won't Google. See if you can work out which game. A Rangers and Celtic,
You won't
great,
get
but
it.
where
No,
you
no
won't
chance
get
you
it.
get it. No.
And if you do, you're googling it. What else are you thinking then, Gary? I agree. Look, it will be amazing. The World Cup. Craig has played in World Cups. Aidan's been there supporting. I've been lucky enough to cover a number of them. I just can't wait for it. But it's not good for the team to feel, and the manager, because Stevie Clarke, he's not the most ebullient, and you can hear that he takes it. He said, the media, you might find out before I do about my contract.
Look, Paul, the one thing I would say as well is the fans aren't booing for no reason.
Yeah,
They're not booing for no reason. That doesn't come if the team are playing very, very well. They're unhappy with what they're seeing, or they're unhappy with certain decisions in the game, certain personnel have been selected. So it doesn't. There's no smoke without fire, is there?
Good point. Gary, what would you say to Aidan?
Yeah. I get that to a point, and fans pay their hard-earned money to go and see Scotland, and they want to see good football. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because as I say, when you look at the results that went elsewhere, we all expected Denmark probably to come through that game last night. They went out. Italy. I was working with somebody this morning that last time that Italy were in the World Cup, they were in school. Stuff like that. So it's crazy to think that we're in the position that we're in, because last night, as I say, I was frustrated with watching Scotland. But then I thought about it, and I thought, we're going to the World Cup. As I say, I think because in that respect, I was in school the last time we reached the World Cup. And I just think we need to slow it down and kind of get a grip here and go, the fans, they're not happy with this kind of football they're seeing, or the formation, or the style of football. And I was in Germany for the Euros last time, and I publicly kind of slated Steve Clarke in the way that he went about things, and I just felt like we bottled it slightly last time out. And I'm hoping that maybe if this is to be his last tournament or last hurrah as Scotland manager, I'm hoping that he's going to kind of throw fire to the wind and just go for it kind of thing. But to do that, you're going to need proper strikers, proper frontmen, and this is where we're going to struggle, because we don't have like a Harry Kane, a Wayne Rooney, a Miroslav Klose or somebody like that. We don't have that, and Shea Adams and London Dykes have been okay for us in terms of what they've given to the jersey, but you need somebody that's prolific up front that's going to get you the goals. Unfortunately for us, the goals come from other areas of the park, like your McTominays, your McGinns and things like that. So we need to sort that out and try and we've got to find a better striker out there between now and June.
What do you think of George Hurst, what you saw of him? Here's the manager.
Good. Come in, bright, needs a goal, would like a goal, but he's trying to score. He's had good efforts. He's tried to get efforts away. That's a good thing for a striker. He
made some things happen and came close. What do you think, Gary?
Yeah, I like Hurst, and I like young Conway kind of thing out wide. I think you can clearly see they're trying their best, and they're trying to, and it maybe only take one or two games to score to get them up and running properly. But as I say, for me, I just think we need to be looking at better than those players. To be fair, I don't know if those players are going to take us to the next level and get us to continuously qualify for World Cups and European Championships.
So there's a squad of 55, as we heard in the last few days. Yeah. So how many? He must know 22 or 23 of the 26, right, that are nailed on. So there's probably 3 places. But could somebody come in, Barney Stewart or something could suddenly say, I don't know where you're going to get the chance to prove to the manager you could score at the World Cup.
There absolutely, in my opinion, will be a smokey, someone that comes out of nowhere. No, there always is. There always is, because unfortunately, every player will be desperate to keep fit and healthy leading into it. The reality is someone will unfortunately miss out.
Even Scotland, will we have a smokey?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Barney Stewart could be a
Barney
smokey.
Stewart, I think,
and we were talking before about Ben Doak as well.
Indeed.
When's he going to go in, and then all of a sudden, when's he going to get his start? When players are ready. But yeah, Paul, always a smokey in the World Cup.
Do you know what a smokey is?
That's the first time I've
I
actually
know.
heard that. But
I'm
it's a good
nodding as though I know.
phrase.
What is a
good phrase.
smokey? Yeah,
Just something that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah,
I
unknown,
like it. Yeah,
unknown.
yeah. Aidan, what were you going to ask?
I was going to just say, but the thing is, Steve Clark's set his team up in a way because he knows the goals aren't there with the strikers. It's plain to see it. But who else is out there? Who else is out there that's actually bubbling under that you think he probably, like, apart from Barney Stewart, who's, like you said, he's a unknown smokey. Who else is really out there that is scoring goals and chapping on the door?
Lon Shankland, assuming that he scores again when he comes back and he's back.
He would probably
again,
be my starter for me. Shankland would probably be my starter for me.
I don't know if he suits the way Steve Clark plays.
Yeah,
He wants dynamic strikers, doesn't he?
But he will score goals.
He will score goals, and that's the hardest thing to do. I know.
What about the system? He spoke about it last night. Went back to the 3-5-2.
I like the shape. I do like playing with front two. Sometimes it's difficult because I've got so many good midfield players that you're always tempted to try and get them into your side. I've said before, the back five, when we play a back five, it's a system that qualified us for 2 tournaments. And then everybody suddenly became really negative about it. When I have the key personnel that I can put on the pitch, the back five, the way we play, is a really good system for us. Whether we play with a back five, 1 striker and two off the top, it's a system that works for us.
That's a system, obviously, with Robertson and Tierney together. Barry Ferguson was saying on Monday night in here, if got to get those two playing in the same team. They keep saying if they're fit, Kieran Tierney's hardly missed a game this season, hasn't he?
Yeah, he does seem to come off a lot of games though, but he hasn't missed a lot of games. But he's right in what he's saying. That is the formation that got Scotland to qualify for 2 major tournaments. But in that system though, you're going to have to try and get your best personnel on. Kieran Tierney and Robertson, of course, they are. But I think you lose out on a lot of creativity when you play a 3-5-2. I think you've not got any wingers in your team, do you?
Yeah. And if Gannon Doak is fit, surely he would play, and hopefully he's just about back for Bournemouth, Craig, because he's the kind of player that we would love, a bit of inventive play that we need, a kind of Aiden McGeady.
Well, a little bit like Aiden. Yeah. I mean, Aiden was probably better with the ball, travelling with the ball, but I mean, there's one thing you can't coach, and that's pace, and it's a real weapon, Aiden, isn't it? Defenders hate it when you start getting the wide players that want to. First thing I think about is getting at that defender. You're inviting challenges, potential yellow cards, penalties. It's a great asset to have.
He is the one player in that team who has that X factor, doesn't he?
Yep.
He is the one player that you actually get you off your seat. Whereas I know Scotland have a lot of very, very good players, but that is the formation for me. You don't have clinical strikers, so Gary was right in what he's saying. The goals do come from further back in the pitch.
Gary, have you been quite happy to be away from thinking about your beloved Celtic in the last 12 days since the Dundee United game? But it's back to the serious business this weekend against Dundee, and you're at the end of the weekend, as you well know. Rangers play at 3 on Saturday. You know the story there at home. Then Livy play Hearts 2 o'clock on Sunday, and then the Dundee Celtic game. What are you feeling?
Yeah, obviously not looking forward to the run-in, to be honest, especially after losing to Dundee United last time out.
No? Do you not want to just take it? Do you not think they just need to take it on board and say, right, it's not in their hands anymore. It is for Hearts, it is for Rangers.
I suppose that's going to take a bit of pressure off the team, maybe. And obviously we're going to need to win 7 games and hope that it's going to be enough. But for me, I think the pivotal moment of the season could come at Ibrox in Saturday, because Rangers have a chance to go top of the league for the first time in something like 2 years, and that might be the defining moment of the season. Because if Rangers go top of the league on Saturday, as I say, it might be a domino effect where Hearts might drop points to Livingston, we might drop points to Dundee, or Rangers could slip up on Saturday and we could take advantage of it. I don't know. I don't see it personally with the team now. And I know we're hopefully going to get Alistair Johnson and Callum Osmond back. I'm hearing also that Araujo might not be out for the season. Hopefully he's going to be back for the split, for the run-in. So that's going to be a massive boost for us as well.
Gary,
these players back.
Yeah. See, with 8 defeats, if you were to lose or not to win at the weekend, part of you would go, okay, it's the season where right off the league and get on with it and win the cup. Do you know what I mean? Celtic with it, because you say 7 games to go. If we could win that, Celtic would normally be thinking, not long ago you were going a whole season without losing a game. Do you know what I mean?
But that's the thing. We should have been thinking that at Tannadice, and even with the surface being as bad as it was, we should have been thinking that. And I think you could have gave us a fortnight and we wouldn't have scored at Tannadice. To be fair, that's how bad we were. It was, you couldn't even you couldn't even put your finger on what went wrong between beating Motherwell comfortably.
Yeah.
You had a full week's rest to then go into Tannadice and it totally collapsing. So, as I say, I don't know. It's just going to be. I'll be happy when this season's done, Paul. To be honest, because what we've down south as well, do you know what I mean? Like,
And he's a Newcastle fan, so he's off.
Losing twice to Sunderland, so
bad on both
that's
fronts.
not been great.
Indeed. Aidan, what would you say about your old team with Celtic? What are you thinking just now?
Look, before the Dundee United game, I was, quietly confident that Celtic were building a bit of momentum. I know we've spoken about performances this season. The performances haven't been good, but the results have been there. Scraping 1-0 wins. Played slightly better against Motherwell at home. But then if Motherwell still had 10 men in the park, I don't know if that game finishes the way it does. But I was quite confident that eventually the performances would come. But then the game against Dundee United, I was shocked by what I've seen. It didn't look like a team that are fighting for a title.
No.
That's what it looked like to me. I think we can talk about the conditions. Dundee United still to play the same conditions. Dundee United played the conditions way better than Celtic. Celtic just at the minute just looked like kind of going through the motions, and there doesn't really look to be a spark there. And going for the rest of the season, I'm unsure now because I think it's Hearts to lose.
Yeah. And Craig, from a Rangers point of view, Gary was saying Rangers could go top of the table at the weekend.
Well, it's a big test for Rangers to see whether they've got that character. It's a great opportunity because then you're asking questions of others that are going to play after you. So it'd be a good position to be in. Certainly wouldn't decide any titles for me because, again, I still don't see Rangers going on a clean run between now and the end of the season. But yeah, it would be a big test and a good result for Rangers. With the Celtic situation, feel as if they're spent a little bit because, as you says, Aidan, there's been so many late drama, that real hunger, fight, desire to still get over the line without necessarily performing amazing, but eventually your tank empties. And that's what I kind of seen
Your luck runs out.
Against Dundee United. Yeah, when you're relying a little bit more on luck, Celtic are normally dominating, creating. You do that, you may lose 1 in 10. But every game has been a battle. Dundee United definitely played the conditions far better.
Gary, you'll be glad to hear we have to fire on before we say to you, is it Eddie Howe for Celtic next season? Remember that a few years ago?
Yeah.
The twists and turns.
I was going Eddie who?
Yeah. He'll turn it around at Newcastle, won't he? Yes or no?
Yeah. He'll
so.
still be at Newcastle, I think, next season. Yeah, absolutely.
Gary, great call. Thank you so much. 0808 1717 700.
The Go Radio Football Show with Burger King.
Top team with me tonight, Paul Cooney. Delighted to have Aiden McGeady with us in the studio again, backed by public demand. Well, we got one call saying, we got loads of people on who enjoyed it the other week. Aiden, thanks for coming back in.
No problem.
And Craig Moore comes back like the boomerang. We can't get rid of him. He's always back. No, it's great to see you were away a lot, over
I did have a spell,
Christmas, New Year. So it's good to have you back. And the quality of guests that I'm lucky enough to have here every night is outstanding in the quality of chat. And I can tell you, lots of people have made the switch to the Go Radio Football Show with Burger King. So it's good. Glasgow loves talking football. Of course it does. They enjoy it, Super Scoreboard. They love it here as well. But more and more, thank you for coming on from 5 every night. You two, right, when did you play against each other? Because I was trying to work it out. And Aidan, it was you that remembered.
Yeah, it was, I'm going to say 2009.
Yeah.
2009.
Yeah.
And we were on that pre-season tour, as you know, Celtic do sometimes. We went to Australia for 3 days.
Yeah.
Played the game against Brisbane Roar, and Craig was playing for Brisbane Roar.
Wow, Celtic against Brisbane Roar. Do you remember it?
I do remember the game because Celtic give us a tank in that game as well.
To be fair, I don't think it was a tank. I remember
3-0, 3-1. We might have nicked something. The Kiwi boy, I remember is it Chris Cullen?
Chris Cullen,
I think he scored in that game a fantastic.
His only goal. His only goal for Celtic.
I don't know. It might have even been you that crossed it. There was a ridiculous delivery coming that was just bang. Funny thing about that game was, Paul. Obviously Celtic come out, as Aidan says, those tours, and 3 players lining up for Brisbane Roar. Myself, Charlie Miller, and Bob Malcolm.
Oh wow! Up against. I'll tell you what, you guys must have. Were you a wee bit nostalgic though?
No, listen. We obviously knew a lot of the lads that had come out. I'm sure the weather was as it normally is. Was quite warm.
Did you go out afterwards?
Part of the pre-season. No, there was an event before. They maybe probably went out. In terms of the club events and what have you. But it was good. It was a good match. Like I said, it's good for our lads in Australia at that time because they get to test themselves against people that they're watching every week on television.
The stadium was full as well, wasn't it? Because there was a lot of Celtic fans in Australia, but the stadium was, so it was a really, really good atmosphere.
Yeah, 50,000 as well. It was actually a really nice stadium, Suncorp.
Wow, yeah. But he came back here, Aiden. We just couldn't keep him away.
What are you doing?
Came back to Scotland.
Why have you left? What are you doing across here?
A day like today, the Easter weekend coming up. Look at it.
Oh, just the weather the last 3 or 4 days. I'm asking myself the same question. Any chance? Just want to see a bit of sun.
Yeah, and we just mentioned about Ireland 2 up last week. We were, for all the home nations, it was especially Ireland 2 up. We thought they were going to go through.
Yeah, look, Ireland have had a change in the style of play over the last couple of years, and I wasn't too sure in the manager, to be honest with you. But he did turn it around. The last kind of 3-4 games of the group, and then obviously the game against Portugal, and then the last group game, and then to get to the playoffs. But I just thought it was a step too far, if I'm being honest. I thought it was a step too far because I look around at the Ireland squad now and look back when I was playing. You didn't get picked for Ireland unless you were playing in the Premier League or you were playing SPL, but you're playing the top league now. And I'm not saying it's the players' fault, but it does show that there's a lack of talent coming through because most of the team now are Championship. The majority would be Championship with the odd sprinkling of a Premier League player and some League One players. Yeah. And look, I think you're always going to struggle when that is the bar that you've got to choose from.
Because that happened for Scotland 5-6 years ago, wasn't it? We had lots of Championship players, First Division players. There's not the same pool of talent getting a chance in the Premiership. There's hardly any players playing in Scotland now in the team.
Yeah, and it's funny that because you touch on with Ireland, I think Australia have been through that, Scotland have been through that, and then you start to scratch your head and start to question why is that? Yeah, why is that? Why are the players not being developed and they're still being able to get to that top level where they're playing in the very, very top leagues? There's certain positions, the goalkeeper position, for example, now for Scotland.
We'll come to that shortly.
Okay.
We'll hear the manager speak about it. We do have a big issue. But it's a big Scotland and Rangers fan is on the line. Paul, good evening. Thanks for calling. Hi, Paul.
Hi guys.
Thanks
for having me on tonight, Paul.
Pleasure. So, what did you make of it last night?
I had 2 points. One about Scotland, one about Rangers.
Okay.
So do you want me to start with Scotland one?
Go Scotland first, then we'll go. Yeah.
So, it was just to say, I'd said this to you before about the booing and all that stuff. So there's 2 points about that, Paul. The Scotland fans that are doing that have to just rein it in a little bit. I'll tell you why. Japan beat England, who are supposedly the next best thing. Thomas Tuchel, great manager, blah, blah, blah. Japan beat them 1-0, same as Scotland, right? Italy, I watched the game last night, and Italy, who, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, have won the World Cup 4 times alongside Germany, one behind Brazil, one of the most traditional nations that would always qualify for the World Cup, famous team, blah, blah, blah. That's the last time they qualified was 2014. That's 3 consecutive World Cups. Haven't been there. So we have to, some Scotland fans, don't say them all, some Scotland fans just need to hold the bus and say, do you know what? We're qualified top of the group, ahead of Greece, ahead of Denmark, and we're going to the World Cup, Paul. Let's be happy about it. Stop picking holes. Geez, but look, I think I'm realistic. We're not going to win the World Cup. But let's celebrate it. We've been there for 28 years. Come on, whoever's listening to the radio today, celebrate Scotland getting to the World Cup and nations like Italy not getting there. Can you not be excited about it? I know what you think.
I think, listen, for sure the game before the World Cup, Curacao, this will be more like a celebration, right? Because it's the game before you go to the World Cup. So, and again, I've been involved in that exact situation. Fans will come out, they'll support the national team. It's a sending off. It'll be a great day, and Scotland will get a good result, right? Then you get to the World Cup. The supporters that go there are going to have an absolute blast of a time, and all they're going to do is support their team. Unfortunately, it's just in the process, like the friendlies and all that, and home games. Fans want to be entertained. They want to, even if you're not going to win a match, they want to feel excitement. They want to feel, they want to feel entertained, and that's probably been the disappointment in the last couple of matches. And it does happen in friendlies, Paul, with the amount of substitutions as well in matches. I think that it can also stop the flow. Although against Ivory Coast, I think the substitutions that were made helped Scotland in terms of performing better. But the fans won't be booing at the World Cup, I guarantee you that.
Aiden, what would you say?
Yeah, look, Paul, I do agree with you as well. I think, do you think there's a degree of entitlement now because a lot of the fans have seen success recently and that's what they think they're used to now, so they expect that all the time? Because I kind of see it with Celtic at times as well. Some Celtic fans are the same because all they've been used to is success, so just winning. So I understand, look, fans pay their money and they are entitled to voice their opinions, but I do agree with you, there's a level of realism needed as well. Because to qualify for World Cup and like he qualified for the major tournaments before, he's been a successful manager, but again, you're only as good as your last game, and when you're not seeing a good product in front of you, people will moan about it, won't they?
But Paul, all three of us are agreeing totally with you as well, for sure. I mean, you're right, Italy, one of the greatest nations in football, they're not there yet again. And it's not as if it's not a surprise. It went all the way and you'd have thought, surely the Italians will come through, and they didn't. So, yeah, we can't take anything for granted. Anything you saw over the last couple of games? I mean, you're absolutely right. Japan beating England last night, it just shows you for Scotland that, they were never going to be any pushovers. An Ivory Coast, more than decent team. I don't know, what about the goalkeeping position? What are we thinking? Liam Kelly was in last night. Look, the goal, nobody did well at our goal. Liam, of course, as well. But you just wonder. In fact, here's what the manager said about, he was asked about the goalkeeper's position. So Angus Gunn was asked, you dropped him last night? Or what's the situation?
I had a chat with Angus about it. I had a chat with all the goalkeepers. I wanted to give Liam a little bit more international experience. I wanted to give Scott Bain a little bit more international experience. Maybe Craig doesn't make it, maybe Angus doesn't make it. That was the thinking on that. In terms of Angus getting game time, to get game time at the end of March is still a long way away for the tournament. So he's going to train at his club, he's going to work at his club, and come the summer, if he's in the squad, he'll get one of the friendlies.
Wow. So, he's just saying, Craig, don't know. Angus Gunn might not be playing. It's hard to believe. Is there anyone out there that we're missing? Because
Liam Kelly's not playing either.
Yeah, no, I know exactly. He's not. So Scott Bain's the only player who's playing every week. Yeah. Because how tough is that for Liam Kelly coming in last night to play at that level? Or
I think it's very tough. But see, especially for goalkeepers, right? Yeah. Your decisions or mistakes are costly. Yeah. But in terms of judging the flight of ball and like it says, that decision making, all sorts of stuff, you don't get in training because it's all controlled. It's all very controlled, and you know exactly what you do. You got to put the ball here, you got to catch the ball there. In a game, you got to make decisions, and see when you're not exposed to that and you're not getting those regular minutes. Even if it's not a goalkeeper, Aiden, you would have had that probably as a player coming back from injury, or I certainly had it where it took time to get up to speed, to get into that rhythm again. It's very, very hard to come out of nowhere and all of a sudden have an absolute blinder.
Who would be a keeper, Aiden? It's just such a...
Who would? Well, everybody says they're mad, don't they?
I know.
They are. And
you have to be mad to be a goalie. You do.
I know.
But as Craig says, it is very, very difficult when you're not playing regular games to be thrust into the international stage and look, by the way, you need to play well here because you might have a chance of going to the World Cup or performing at the World Cup. But I thought it was strange that Steve Clarke's comments when he's talking about Angus Gunn might not be playing, to then say, well, Liam Kelly's playing tonight. Yeah. But Liam Kelly isn't playing for Rangers either. So, but ideally, you want your goalkeeper at the World Cup to have been playing every single game, and performing well. I find now with international football, players getting squads, I might have been one of myself towards the end of my career, but players getting squads who aren't really performing at the top of the level because it should be, for me, the best players play. Performance levels.
But there's obviously a loyalty there. Paul, you any thoughts? Have you got a goalkeeper up your sleeve that you can suggest for Scotland?
Oh, I wish I did, Paul. No, I like Craig Gordon. I mean, I know his age and everything else.
But he's injured.
I know. Probably Angus Gunn, to be honest. But I'm more excited. I don't care who's in, Paul. I'm more excited to get there. Do you know what I mean? I like a previous caller, I was at school the last time we got there, and if you'd asked me then it would take 28 years to get to another World Cup,
never.
I'd have laughed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I'm more a case of just looking forward to it. America, Mexico. Well, I know we're in Mexico, but we're in America. But
well, we might be in Mexico if we go through Guadalajara, apparently.
Yeah.
Back to Mexico, where the World Cup was in 1986. You weren't even born, were you?
I was when I was born, actually.
You were born. Cheers for that.
Yeah.
I was very young, but enjoyed it. It was amazing.
Top World
Mexico
Cup,
World Cup, wasn't it?
It's the first one I really, really
Do
remember.
you? Fantastic.
A little bit older than Aiden.
So yeah, not much you played against each other. Okay, but I love the fact that because there's so many scary things happening. Paul, you're up for it. You've cheered us up to say, look, let's enjoy it, let's embrace it. Right, what about Rangers? You're going to be back on in a few weeks' time saying champions of Scotland, Hearts. Sorry, no, Rangers. Now, what do you think, Paul? I know you're very cautious, but you could go top on Saturday.
100%. I want to stick up for Craig a wee bit. I heard earlier on he's got a wee bit of hard time with Brisbane Rovers. Brisbane Rovers getting battered off of Celtic. Craig, you battered Celtic when you were playing us. Don't forget that, right?
By the way, I was actually backing him up here as well. He never get battered off us.
Exactly. Nobody battered him, Paul. Don't worry.
No. It's, well, I was just going to ask Craig and what Aiden thinks as well. If Rangers do get this, I heard the previous call saying it could be a defining moment. But if we do beat Dundee United, which we should do in paper, and we go top of the league for the first time in whatever it is, a year, 2 years or whatever. Well, I think Craig said he doesn't expect us to stay there, but do you not think it's a bit of a game changer because it certainly puts the pressure on Hearts at a tricky pitch at Almondvale or whatever the name of the stadium is now.
Yeah.
It's not
as well.
It's not that I don't expect or think that Rangers could stay there or not. I just say, listen, it's a real good challenge for Rangers. A home game against Dundee United, playing a day before Hearts and Celtic. Yeah. Go and get your 3 points and put your feet up and recover well and look at what happens the following day. That's a challenge, absolutely, for Rangers. If they can put themselves in that position, it's a great position to be in. What I'm saying is there will still be, mark my words, there will still be twists and turns in the remaining matches.
That's exactly what I think too, because everybody's changed their opinion so many times in the last 3-4 weeks. Who's going to win the league? Who's got the momentum going into these final 7 games? I was probably leaning towards Celtic 12 days ago. Now I'm probably not. I think it is Hearts to lose, but look, I think the best thing that happened for Rangers last weekend or the weekend before when Rangers won and Hearts won and Celtic lost, that was a big moment I thought as well, and the same thing could happen again this weekend. Look, I think Rangers have been performing well. I just think, I agree with Craig. This is going to change again. This is going to change again.
Because look at the following week. Rangers are away to Falkirk. I mean, Falkirk, we all know, top 6 team. Celtic at home to St Mirren. I mean, they found it tough against St Mirren. We all know the story, and the stories of recent games. Yep. And then Hearts have got Motherwell at home. But, by then, so listen, it could be anyway. It's absolutely fascinating. Paul, thanks so much. Nobody was giving Craig stick about. I think we were all just a bit jealous of the weather over there. Brisbane,
Celtic boys must have had a great trip in Oz.
Yeah, in Oz.
I was actually going to compliment you because I remember you crunching somebody in a tackle.
Oh, who did he crunch?
I can't remember who it was, but I remember him crunching somebody. So I was actually going to say that.
Was it good?
Yeah, that's what I remember.
As pros, you remember all that, don't you, as well? Yeah. For you, Craig, it must have been a bit special. You see the hoops there, but in the way that they were the opposition over your career.
You know what? It was again because we actually had 4 or 5 really good young promising players and all sort of stuff. So again, it was good because I was able to tell them exactly what they're going to be coming up against, the level of these players that are doing the business week in and week out. So it was great education and experience for a lot of the younger players. For us older ones, it was also nice because, as Aidan touched on, Suncorp is a beautiful stadium, 50,000 seater, and it was a good atmosphere that day.
It's not Radio Australia, it's Glasgow's own. We're back after this.
The Go Radio Football Show with Burger King.
Looking back at the match last night, Scotland losing 1-0 to the Ivory Coast. The goal coming from Nicolas Pepe. England losing to Japan, and we mentioned that in the context of Japan having beaten Scotland at the weekend. I see the under-21s lost again last night against Portugal.
How was that the 19s as well? They had a good result against Poland.
Before, yeah, indeed.
Last night.
How was it?
Oh. Yeah, no, they scored within 20 seconds of the match. Wow. So that's always a good way to start, isn't it?
It sure is.
So Scotland 19s against Poland, 1-3-0.
It's worrying though for the under-21s. Yet another defeat. Looks as though we're not going to qualify. There's a slim chance, but I doubt it. It just seems to go on and on. There's very little change there at all.
And it's actually not a bad group, the 21s.
Behind the scenes, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. And look, the importance for me in terms of the ongoing development, to be exposed to tournaments and that sort of stuff, honestly, it's priceless. So when you're not in a position and you're hitting those kind of tournaments, it can put the development of the national teams at a bit of a standstill. So you need to be qualifying.
Youssef Chermiti played last night. He didn't score. No. He got crunched in one of the tackles, but I think he's okay. Yeah. That's the latest from that one. But I mean, for Scott Gemmell, I don't know Scott personally, and he's been there a long, long time. And it just seems to be, the quote last night was, we're going to learn from this. I think eventually you've got to say, come on, we need a bit of a change of direction. Or maybe I'm being unfair.
You're not buying into it?
Well, I just think eventually.
Yeah. Well, again, listen, there needs to be. Yep. There needs to be change. I think we touched on something earlier on, and like if you always do what you've always done, you know, sometimes you need to freshen things up. I know they're not stuck with those players for a long period of time because they're getting national team. They're coming in just in dribs and drabs with the camps, and then they're back out to clubland. Yeah, but sometimes you need to have a bigger kind of plan, Paul, in terms of a reshape, different voices. Is it that time within the SFA in terms of the junior coaching? Who knows?
But the job of the underage teams is not to be successful and win tournaments. It's to get players in the national team. And what we were talking about earlier on, where are strikers? Yeah. Where are the goalkeepers? And then that goes back to accountability. What are the people doing further down the chain? As the job being done properly? And I'm not saying Scott Gemmell isn't the right man for the job, but you do have to look and go, how many players have you really brought through that have really pushed on that first team? That's the way I would look at it, but thankfully I'm not in that role.
But it's exactly the same. It's a good point because it's exactly the same in the debates that we've had about club football. Why are Rangers and Celtic not producing more players, and what are the KPIs, or in terms of accountability? Academy director, what's your job?
Bring players through. And when they're not being brought through, wait a second there, what's really going on behind the surface? But that is the job. It's the job of the underage teams is to fulfil and flood the national team with players. Where's the conveyor belt of talent? Because all these countries throughout Europe, I did something on this course I was on. I actually compared the UK to France, Germany, Holland, Brazil, Argentina. Why do they have a conveyor belt of world class players? Every 5-10 years. Why is that? And by the way, it's not to do with the economy or the weather. No, it's the coaching.
Sure. And was that your conclusion? The coaching?
Yeah, it's the coaching.
And what is that? Our coaching's not good enough here, or is there too much pressure on getting instant success? I don't know. What did you find?
I found that the coaching was better because if you look at
elsewhere,
if you look at La Masia, or Ajax, for example, the Tom Cruise, the best academy in world football in terms of selling players. The most profitable academy that's been produced for selling players on, the things that they do and the metrics that they teach their players at such a young age. So, for example, they pay their academy coaches at under 7, under 8, under 9 more money than under 15s, under 16s coaches to incentivise them to stay there. Yeah, but we don't do that.
No.
But also, Aiden, as well. This is we could talk forever on it, but see, developing players. Head coach seeing the team different. Right, developing players, that's specialist coaching. That's a different type of coaching, and it plays a vital role for players to develop to get to that level. Head coaches at big clubs and all that sort of stuff, they're not interested in the academy. They're interested in keeping their job and winning games of football.
And you can understand that as well.
Absolutely.
But I didn't realise that, Aiden. That is fascinating. You think about it. So they pay more money to the under 7 coach than
it's
like, under 15s.
Yeah. They pay those coaches more money because you pick up as a child most of your good and bad habits from a young age. So if you don't work on your left foot from the age of 6 or 7, it's very unlikely you're going to be really good in your left foot when you're 15, 16 and you start working on it.
Yeah.
These are the things that they do and the techniques that they introduce at such a young age, and it's proven to work. Sometimes I look back and go, can we in this country or the UK not just look at what the amazing academies are doing and just copy it? Listen, on a different budget, but just take the good things that they're doing and maybe try and implement it here.
Japan also, Aidan, I'm sure you would have seen. I think they're 20 years into a 50-year plan, and their massive thing is about football starts at home. So even the toddlers are about in the house and all that sort of stuff, mimicking what dad does or mum does with balls, just soft balls in the kitchen and all that sort of stuff. It's a cultural, it's a shift, it's a change, and it's a bigger thing than just when they turn up and do that training session with the coach.
Yeah. And look at Matoma last night in the headlines. Maeda in recent years, Hatate.
I mean, Celtic back in the Nakamura.
Nakamura, he was back in town.
You look at the players that they produce and will continue to produce because they have a 50-year plan.
Max Onker saying, did you meet up with Nakamura? Did you get the chance?
No, I didn't
Aidan?
actually. He didn't
No.
text me.
Did he not?
He didn't text me. He didn't call
Yeah.
me either. But,
Yeah.
no, I think
Yeah.
for some reason they brought Lenny, and I seen Lenny hiding.
I saw that.
Seen Lenny
Yeah.
hiding in the tunnel. When
It
he
was the
walked out.
worst. It wasn't the worst, but you could tell it was. It wasn't.
Naka was very, very
Yeah.
quiet actually.
So,
He kidded
yeah.
on he couldn't speak English, but I caught him reading the Sun loads of times.
Honestly, yeah.
I caught him in the bus reading the Sun loads of times. I bet he never spoke to any of us.
Yeah.
But listen, wonderful player, and actually like a really, really down to earth guy
Yeah,
as well.
was he?
He just
Yeah.
he always had his interpreter
Ah.
with him 24 hours a day. So
Right. Was that his kind of bodyguard? Always.
that was
Yeah.
So Strachan would then shout at him after a bad game and say, "You were a joke today."
Is that right?
You tell him that. That's what it happened. But wonderful player.
Yeah.
I think that's the first time he's been back actually.
Is
As well,
that right?
isn't it?
Yeah. What a people absolutely love him, Craig. And we'll never forget the moment against Man United at Celtic Park.
Again,
Champions League, boom.
Yeah, and
Bosh.
you've got to appreciate quality. And Nakamura, look, he played in a generation of top Japanese players, and he come and he delivered on the top stages here. He was a fantastic talent.
After the news, Mark also wants to know about who helped you on the way up and the skills that you developed. Obviously, you had a lot of natural skill, but the harder you work, the better you become. So we'll talk about that after the news. For Rangers fans, Manny Fernandes scored last night.
For
as you
Nigeria,
know. Yeah. 24-year-old, he scored in their 2-1 win over Jordan. All right, a few more calls coming in. 0808 17 17 700. We're coming towards the end of the international week. No wins for Scotland, but we heard Paul earlier on. We heard Gary saying, come on, we're heading for the World Cup, so let's enjoy it. After the news with Aidan and with Craig, we're talking the title. Who's going to win it? That's next.
The Go Radio Football Show with Burger King. Watch live at 5 p.m. weekdays on YouTube. Join the conversation on 0808 17 17 700. Talking Scottish football first.
As we look forward to this weekend, Hibs against Kilmarnock, Motherwell Falkirk, Rangers against Dundee United Saturday at 3, and St Mirren against Aberdeen. Stephen Robinson, a warm reception back at the new Love Street at the Smythe, where he brought just a few months ago the first trophy of the season, the League Cup, the Premier Sports Cup, and some great games in the Championship as well. And what a week it's been for Partick Thistle, edging just 3 points behind St Johnstone after some good wins and after St Johnstone slipping up at the weekend. What are you thinking as we get back to the league football? 0808 17 17 700, and all change at Ayr United, where Aiden McGeady, who's with us tonight with Craig Moore. Aiden, that was your last matches at Somerset Park. Scott Brown, you know him so well, but he's gone. You had the feeling that the run, it was going to end up that way. They just couldn't get the wins go. It was draws and then the defeat, and it was just probably too much.
I think I seen a stat recently, and it was, I think in the last 18 games or something, it was only scored one goal or less in something like 18 of the league games this season. In fact, it might have been the last 18 games, and that's a bit of a damning statistic if you're trying to get promoted. I think he's been unlucky as well. I think there have been a lot of injuries. Injuries. Listen, I think Scott will look back on it and go, look, he's a young manager. It's the same with Fleetwood before that. It's a learning curve for him. There'll be things that he'll look at that he think he could have done differently. There'll be things that went against him that were out with his control. But look, I think with the results and the kind of the infrastructure of the club and the way the owner wants to do things, I think they're in a hurry to get promoted. I think they're gearing the club up in that way to be promoted and be an SPFL team. Everything inside the club is kind of going that way. So look, it's unfortunate. You never want to see anybody lose their job, of course. And Bruni was the manager when I was there. He took over. Effectively, probably retired me, if I'm being honest. But
would you have played on?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I would have played on. I could have played on. But listen, when I was at United, it was really, really good for me. But it was difficult at times because as you start to get older and you start to you slip down the levels. It's as people say, it's harder when you're not playing in really good teams. You look a worse player as well, which definitely affected me. But look, I think with Scott, I think he'll go back and he'll take a bit of time out and he'll look at things in the past 2 years that he might change for the next time he gets a shot at managing somewhere.
Greg, as you know, they've invested heavily, with Scott there. Kevin Whittaker as well. Stephen Whittaker.
Stephen,
Sorry,
yeah.
Stephen.
Stephen, yeah.
And also, Aiden in there. So it's an ambitious club. It's a great club.
They didn't invest a lot in me, though. Don't
No,
worry
oh,
about
did they
that.
not? Okay,
No, no.
it's the old
no.
gag, how much can you pay? How much a week? I'll pay you that.
And interim, is it John Rankin?
Yes,
that
it is.
is
Yeah,
going
who did such a great
he had
job
a challenging
at
job at
the Ackies.
Hamilton, didn't he?
Yeah,
Had a really challenging job. So that'll be interesting to see how John goes. And also, again, the good information from Aiden, in terms of the way the era set up and where they want to be. Sometimes, but you need a little bit of patience here. Like you say, you want to get there early, as quick as you possibly can. Still need to get there and be set and be ready, because the lift and what is actually needed when you're there, again, is a big jump.
That was kind of what I was saying when I was in there. So everybody wanted to get promoted.
Of course
you do. You want to get promoted ASAP.
Yeah.
But what I was kind of trying to intimate to the board and the people that were in there, I was like, if we do get promoted, we're coming straight back down.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think it is better to have a 4, 5, 6 year plan and be steady, because you're coming straight back down, and then it's very, very difficult again to get up. But
There you go again. You look at someone like Livingston, for example. That kind of is it a yo-yo
Yo-yo
club?
you don't
Yeah.
want to be known as
No,
that, do you?
absolutely not.
Ross County fighting for their life in the championship. Hard to believe. They were nearly top 6 the season before, and then they just dropped down and then went down. The rest is history. Right, we're going to talk Scotland just now before we go back to the Big Two and maybe your club as well. What are you thinking, St Mirren fans? I see Craig McLeish in charge now till the end of the season, and that's a great story, Craig, isn't it? Somebody who was there working further down the ranks. He's moved up. In fact, he was working with Stephen McGinn just a year or two ago at the club.
Yep.
Stephen moved on to Falkirk and he's now in charge. We will come back to that in a moment. But back to Stevie Clark after the game last night. What were his thoughts on the 1-0 defeat?
Another defeat, never like losing. Don't think we deserved to lose if you put the game into a hole. But I thought we started really well in the game. Really bright, really clever, trying to get forward. I think our system probably caused them a little problem to start with, which obviously they adapted to. But it was a really poor goal on counter-attack. The organisation behind that attack wasn't right. Good teams will punish you. That's what happened. Ivory Coast are a good team. They punished us with a counter-attack. And I thought the reaction to going 1-0 down wasn't good. We lost control of the game when we should have kept control of the game, because we'd started really well. And that's something we have to become better at.
So things we can come better at. Craig, what are you thinking?
Well, goals always change games. That's pretty clear. In terms of you can start a game well, all of a sudden you finding a good rhythm, and then you cop one. It does tend to rock you and take you a little bit of time to get back in your stride.
Yeah, there were some good things. Here's the manager.
No, the reaction was good. I told the players after the game, I'm pleased. I'm pleased. 2 performances, 2 different systems. Tonight, I felt the start of the game was good because we were on the front foot. I just felt we didn't react very well to the goal, and we have to be better at that. Second half, I thought we were excellent. We got about them. We tried to play on the front foot. By and large, we did. And we just need to find a little bit of quality or a little bit of calmness when you get to the final third of the pitch. And if you do that, the chances will come.
John McGinn brought an energy and a bit of invention when he came on. Aiden?
Yeah, I think listening to Steve Clark's comments, like you said, John McGinn did. He's always going to bring that steadiness, that calmness, a bit of quality. It's interesting that he's actually noticing it as well, though, that in that game, and I would say probably the Japan game as well, the lack of final third decision making, good decisions, that final ball, the killer pass isn't quite the element for Scotland. But look, I think you don't need to read into friendlies too much, do you?
No.
With a massive change of personnel, you don't have to start. I don't know. We're talking about fans booing the team. You don't read too much in it, because these games aren't massively important. They're more about seeing players. But again, it was like we said, you maybe could have seen a few more players. He doesn't seem too disappointed and despondent with that with the 2 games, I don't think.
I thought he summarised it well. Hey, nobody wants to lose.
No.
And Craig, you did say it, that great insight: to win games, you need to score goals. So, listen, honestly,
I'm not concede as well.
Indeed,
No, but
of course.
that was more about it in terms of the reaction that he's looking for. Sometimes when you when you cop one, it shakes you off your stride. But again, the interesting thing is going to be in terms of what they come. It says Haiti, Morocco, Brazil. Yes,
that's right. Haiti, Morocco, Brazil. Absolutely.
So again, in terms of the way that those teams will play, again played against the South American teams. By the way, very, very difficult, because what you think you're playing up against and all that, their shape ends up being nothing like it, because their ability to be able to rotate in many areas, the control that Scotland will need to be able to create mid to final third, I think is going to be the hardest part even at the World Cup, because I don't think that they experience enough ball and territory to be able to create a lot of chances.
I agree with that. I think Scotland have been known as a bit of a transition team, a counter-attacking team over the last few years. I think their strength is when other teams have the ball. So it might work well for them.
Yep.
Because when Scotland are up against a team where they have most of the ball, they do struggle to create. That's the thing. So, and it's funny you say that about Brazil. I'll be looking at Morocco as well.
Absolutely.
Morocco
top
are a top team, team as well.
Yeah.
A lot of very, very talented players. But you go back to Brazil, the rotations. With Brazil, they have that many off the cuff players who can kind of almost get licensed to do what they want. You're looking, going, where are these guys actually playing? I don't envy them, but listen, I'd like to be there. I'd like to be at the World Cup. But you don't envy them.
But that comes back to what you were doing, looking at football and the coaching, and the structure. Why are we not? Is it too much just about competition in this country? Put the ball up, physicality. Even at young, I go to a lot with my grandsons and daughter. And listen, there's a lot of really good coaching going on. I'm not taking away from it, but everything's about, you think you're at the Scottish Cup final, and actually it's not so much time about coaching. I was reading some of the paper. Bill Leckie, for example, was saying Scotland would have been better having a training camp rather than playing those two games. Now, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but come back to the young ones. The coaching, is there enough coaching? Who helped you? Mark was on from Curluke earlier. What was the system for you coming up through?
Look, everything. I go back to what Craig was saying about Japan and their kind of the way that they teach their young players and the way they have it in schools and academies. It was ball mastery. It was the first thing, first and foremost. And I even listened to Arsene Wenger talk recently about it. He and I think in this country we've been too keen to lean on physical players. From a young age. You see someone who's very, very physical, quick, strong. A lot of players would focus on that individual as opposed to the technical side. And Arsene Wenger says you should never do that. I listen to him, he's like, because when that player gets older and everybody catches up with them, the technical side isn't there.
Sure.
And I think that's what a lot of these other countries do. They concentrate on the technical side, but I think we look to possibly introduce tactics from maybe a slightly younger age. I think the other countries do, when it should just be about football and
just
technique.
Fun as well. Fun. If you can master the ball. By the age of 6 or 7, which is what they're doing in Japan and probably a lot of the European top countries and all that. Then all of a sudden, Paul, that player is no longer with his head at his feet. He's able to look up and do different things in games, creative stuff. But the moment you master the ball, it's spot on. Master the ball as soon as you can, then you've got a chance to really accelerate in terms of your development.
And I totally agree with that as well. And then there are other outliers, aren't there, where you can be physically strong, quick, and still have a career in football, and maybe not be technically great, but they're the outliers. For me, it's all about coaching and the ball mastery. And as you get slightly older, you concentrate on technique. But I don't know if we in the UK we kind of turn our shoulder for that a little bit.
But I don't think you should rule anything out until it needs to be ruled out. If you know what I mean. So that bigger player, an early developer, is bigger, stronger, and all that sort of stuff. Then when people get to that stage where they're able to overtake. Okay, then naturally that kind of happens. But again, for me, I think the information that goes into that player, how can you beat a player when somebody's the same size as you, when someone's just as quick as you? Like you need to arm them with a lot more tools for that stage, whereas they're just never been coached.
Give them solutions to puzzles.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the things that I've seen, I don't think it happened. I think if you look at Celtic and Rangers over the last 10 years in the national team, I think it's quite simple to see that talent isn't coming through in comparison to other countries.
Of course. Sitting in the stand, we all saw them in the telly beforehand. Sir Alex Ferguson, who was a good player, but an amazing manager.
Yes.
And Kenny Dalglish, probably the greatest Scottish player, and also a really, really good manager. The two of them. Will we see somebody like a Kenny Dalglish again, going further back, a Jim Baxter, a Jimmy Sen, and Jimmy Johnson, Willie Henderson, Paul McStay, Barry Ferguson. We're not getting enough. Aidan McGeady. Just not seen enough. We're not ball players.
Well, the wingers, I mean, in terms of what Aidan was, I mean, listen, I feel as if the game's starting to shift again a little bit in terms of you might start to see a little bit more 4-4-2 and all that sort of stuff. But
I totally agree. That will happen. In 5 years' time, people start playing 4-4-2.
Absolutely. But again, it's like in terms of, see the curriculums that were coming out. It come out in the US, it come out in Scotland, it come out in Australia and all that sort of stuff. And it was a Dutch curriculum. And for you would have hated it because it actually, for me, is not producing wingers anymore. It's like inverted playing in the pockets and all this nonsense and all that. No. By the way, I want to be able to fire in the ball to my winger if he's got the beating of that fullback. And see, when I know he's got the beating of him, I want to give it to him as many possible times as I can.
and arm the winger with the tools to beat the fullback. Okay, he's as quick as you. What can you do to beat him differently? Can you play 1-2s around him?
Yep.
Can you come into the pocket so he can't mark you? Yeah, it's football is funny, like you said. I think it goes in cycles.
Cycles,
it's
absolutely.
massive cycles.
And for Mark, who helped you in your development then, coming through?
Probably the biggest influence would be Tommy.
Yeah,
Tommy Burns would be.
Burns.
Yeah, he was the one that armed me with, didn't tell me how to beat players, but knew that I had a talent. And sometimes it was, the biggest thing for me was if I'd be having a bad game, because you know what it's like. You're playing at Celtic Park in front of 60,000. The fullback's taking the ball off you 4 times in a row. Maybe at half time I'd come off, I'd be a bit dejected. He'd be like, doesn't matter. That's the whole reason you're on the team, is to take that fullback on. You beat him 1 time out of 10 and then set up the winning goal, job's done.
Yep.
And I kept that with me my whole career.
Love it.
Risk v reward.
Yeah.
Fortune favours the brave, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Who's the fullback that beat you 4 times? Come on. Yeah.
I was being a bit coy. Nobody
I
talked
know.
about 4 times.
I know, exactly. Yeah. But there's not enough magical players, aren't there? Not, Craig. There just aren't. We've got Ben, Gannon, Doyle, but we don't see enough of them. Hopefully, he will be fine for the summer. Finlay Curtis got a chance here the other week.
Well, I played with 2. I remember at Rangers. Like Neil McCann. Neil McCann was. I loved playing with Neil McCann. One, he was a fighter as well. But again, you give him the ball, he gets on the half turn, and boom, he just wants to get at his fullback. And doesn't necessarily feel as if he needs to beat the fullback, as long as he's got that half a yard where he can still hit areas. Yeah. Really, really important. And then for a period of time, Andre Kanchelskis on the other side.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, what do you give him the ball? What does he want to do? Straight away. Brilliant.
But you think that's been coached out of players now? Whereas I sometimes watch younger players play and they'll have an opportunity to take a fullback on 1v1 or be positive and take the space, and they turn and pass back and recycle possession. But I go, it's not their fault, because they're not being told that's the wrong decision.
Yeah, absolutely. I think nowadays you see more in football that there's a real focus on patterns of play rather than recognising moments within a game. So if you're getting isolated 1v1 with a fullback and you're a dribbler, well, I don't want to see you passing it back, or I want you to get on a half turn, whether it's going in behind or whether you're getting to feet and you're getting a half turn and you're running that 1v1. Go and express yourself, son.
Exactly. Simple, isn't it?
Keep it simple.
It's a simple game made hard.
What do you make of all the chat, in the pockets and all that sort of stuff, and the new chat? Because you've just stopped playing, months ago. So are you into all that chat?
No, not really. I mean, it's funny because I was part of the old school as well. I came through kind of the end of Craig's time at Rangers, and I was part of that dressing room at Celtic. I've seen both sides of it. Yeah. So I was seeing, towards the end of my career, I was seeing all these phrases and buzzwords that I'd never heard before in my life. But look, people talk about in the pockets. That's just you getting the half turn in between the lines. Yeah. And it's just the way football's
changes.
Went. Football's went. But no, I'm not a massive fan of it. But press, counter press.
Exactly.
It's just people go as if pressing has just become a thing in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Teams always pressed.
Yeah.
Go and close a man down. Different word for it.
Exactly.
Different phrase for it.
Mid block, deep block, low block.
How about the transition?
I know, and I said transition as well about 5 minutes ago. That is just that's when you lose the ball.
Yeah, I hadn't done this for a number of years. People will be glad for those years. When I came back in, I thought the whole language has changed around it. I was still watching football, but I hadn't quite realised how much tosh was spoken about it. Maybe it's just a new language, and maybe I didn't know it.
No, you need to move the times. I was the exact same, but we had Lee Johnson at Hibs, and he was very big on the buzzwords, as you can imagine. He had a few that he stole off of Nagelsmann at Red Bull, RB Leipzig. So he went across and he stole quite a few of them. But he had phrases like pocket rocket. So he would shout pocket rocket, which is literally
get the ball explode.
No, it was come short and running behind the fullback.
Okay.
That was a pocket rocket, double movement. Yeah, it was a code red. It had code red.
Really?
Which was when from a corner or a counter attack where it's like 3v2 and you run back towards your own goal. Code red, run back as fast as you can.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, it's, bolt your rocket. It was more the Glasgow one, wasn't
pocket
it?
Rocket, yeah.
Bolt your rocket, love it.
0808 17 17 700. Who were the successes for Scotland for you? It's quite hard, I've got the teams here over it all, and it's you don't want to pick. Yeah, we're always objective here. I'm just trying to think, was there anyone we saw much? I mean, Scott McTominay's always spoken about. It wasn't his best couple of games there. A couple of chances.
A chance against Japan, didn't he? The goalkeeper makes a save, it goes off. How it doesn't go in. He has a header. Listen, have we learned anything about players we already know? I don't think so. Did we learn anything about anybody new?
George Hirst, you want to see a bit more? Would
Absolutely.
that be fair? Tommy Conway, will there be time? Is he going to change it anyway? Because he goes with Lyndon Dykes. Well, positives from the games. Let's see what the manager said. This is his final word.
Second half, I thought we were excellent. We dominated the game. We had more of the ball. We looked a threat. We certainly got a number of balls into the box. We didn't create anything that was particularly clean, but I think that was credit to Ivory Coast. I thought they defended well second half, but I thought we asked them to defend very well, and they did that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look at the fringe players that came into it, and, but I don't know that he knew that much from it.
No, but I think as well. Listen, Scotland are a team that play their best stuff when they're on the front foot, right? When they're being nice and confident, they're getting the ball forward early. McGinn's a great player for him. He's able to roll people and then kind of create, and then you start to get 2v1s and all that. But you want to see the fullbacks in nice forward areas and getting balls into the box, because the type of strikers that Scotland do have, they need supply. It's not going to be intricate combinations, is it, Aiden? You need to get the ball wide and you need to get the ball in the box. I
think that has been key to Scotland's attacking play over the last few years, hasn't it? You've got big physical strikers who necessarily aren't amazing at linking the play. I'm not particularly pacey either, that running behind, but it comes from wide areas, and that is his whole game plan, the way that he set his team up. But yeah, I agree with Craig there. Like, have you seen anything that's going to change his mind for the World Cup coming up? Probably not. No. And I think even if he did, he'd probably still be picking. He probably knows what his starting team is going to be if everybody's fit and available. I think for that group game.
But Craig thinks there's going to be a smokey, which is a surprise.
Sure. Yeah, I just think that there always is. With the experiences that I've kind of had, coaches always take one player that without any expectation. Who knows what can happen? But
Wild
X
card.
factor a little bit.
Yeah.
0808 17 17 700. Chloe's been on. A Glasgow City fan actually wanted to mention well done to them winning the Sky Cup at the weekend. Well, yeah, at the game,
that match, yeah.
So I didn't realise they hadn't won it for so long, because they dominated for so long in women's football. Obviously, Celtic, Rangers, Hibs been doing well, but it was a big win for them.
By the way, and the weather was wild.
Oh, I know.
But you know what? The first half was even. Paul. Second half, City capitalised. A couple of goals early. And by the way, second goal from Forrest. What a strike! Rangers come back and had a late rally to make it 2-1. But I think over the game that I matched, that City were probably deserved winners.
Lisa Forrest, you know her brothers very well.
I don't even know that, by the way.
Did you not?
No.
Yeah.
Somebody sent me that the other day. Yeah. I thought they were winding me up.
She's the player in the family.
Yeah. No, she's the best player.
It's that old gag about the McGinns, and you'll know the story there. So well done to them. She also, well, I'll come back to, because we need to take a break, I'm being told, and then we'll be back. Good time for you to get through to Aiden McGeady and Craig Moore. That's next.
The Go Radio Football Show with Burger King.
Some great games coming up this weekend. Aiden McGeady is here along with Craig Moore. It's getting back to, it was a bit stop-start. Billy's been on saying, Craig, can Rangers pick up where they left off nearly 2 weeks ago with a big win against Aberdeen? What do you feel?
I think Rangers should be winning this home game at the stage they're at, if they want to achieve any kind of success. Dundee United, on the back of a great result against Celtic, will be hard to shift, but it's an opportunity for Rangers at home.
Matondo away. We've not seen much of Rabbi Matondo.
Rabbits.
He's away now, obviously, to Brann.
Yes, that's away to Norway. I don't think. Listen, unfortunately, injuries and therefore regular football for Matondo at Rangers didn't really happen. He showed some glimpses. He showed some real quality at times. But again, without being too disrespectful to the player, you need to have a little bit of luck, staying fit, staying healthy. He didn't really get in that situation at the club.
Mikey Moore asked you about him a few weeks ago. Obviously, what do you feel about him getting better, stronger?
I think he's getting better, yeah. I like him. I think he's been, I'd probably say Rangers standout player of the season. He's the one that excites me when I watch Rangers. He's the one that I look at. He's the one that can unlock defences. A little bit of guile in him. He's quick running with the ball. He's a fairly productive season in front of goal as well. I know he's a young player. This is his first real taste of first team football. I think he's been one of Rangers' best players this season. So I think I've seen something about they're trying to make the deal permanent. Is that possible? But I think it would be the right place for him to continue his development, because I was saying that. I was going to say it'd be difficult to get in the Spurs team, but it might be quite easy.
Exactly. Sure.
Might be
Yeah,
quite
it
easy.
depends
at the
what
minute,
happens.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
Because if they go down, then
He's playing.
Yeah, he's playing. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
Craig?
Yeah, no, listen, I'd be interested to hear Aiden's thoughts in terms of, listen, Mikey Moore at the beginning under Russell Martin obviously struggled, but I think that was because he was maybe being coached to come inside a lot, whether that was something he was used to doing or had experienced before, whether you had that experience as a player, because naturally you want to probably get the ball on the outside.
It depends what side you play on, doesn't it? If you're inverted, that's one thing I think you have to be able to do, though. You have to be able to go down the line as well, even if you're playing on the left and go and use your left foot. But yeah, I think if you're inverted, it's quite difficult. Your option is you tend to drift inside more, don't you?
Yeah. But he seemed to have actually found a way to be able to do that, be more successful. That so now you could probably throw Mikey Moore in as a 10 and be like that. It'd be like no problem. You know what I mean? He seems to have learnt in those positions to be able to receive the ball on the half turn, to be able to then go and get it a back four. Or if he's in a wider position, naturally it's naturally part of his game. But he does like to come inside, doesn't he?
Yeah.
From the opposite side. So on the left, coming in on his right foot, like the goal he scored before the international break.
I liked him in the last game against Celtic, the cup game, the first half especially. But I felt like, I know he was playing wide and he was out there quite a few times, but he was more effective when he was inside. So he is learning that side of the game, or to be able to play in different positions.
It's a horrible position, Paul, for a defender, right? So if you're up against a winger, right, and you know his type of movement and all that sort of stuff, it's a nervy time, because if the supply is time and space and all that, and he's quicker than you, then you could be in trouble. But also the smart players, when they start going in, and I call them in between positions, people will call them today pockets, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, do I get sucked in there? Do I go all the way? Or, do I leave this space and all that? And when you start asking yourself those questions, I normally say that's where you got to stay in the position that you're in. But then all of a sudden you get someone with real pace and now gets a half turn and are running at you. And it's for me, defensively, it's one of the most dangerous things. When someone's running at you with speed, defender needs to get it spot on. Otherwise, foul, yellow card. There's so many things that can happen if you allow that situation.
It's that drifting. What you're saying is, when the player drops into those pockets, drops in between the lines, I'll stay in my slot, I won't go out. But then when that player's good enough to then drive with the ball and see a pass ahead of you, you're then getting stick to go, you need to go inside.
You need to go all the way.
You're caught in between, aren't you?
Yes, it's a tough one, and it's decision making. And a lot of the time it is decision making, Paul, because again, we go back to coaching. I've never coached in my career about those kind of things, the smaller details. So a lot of the coaching that you get is a lot of the structural stuff.
I think that's the important stuff, though.
No,
see what
it is.
you're talking about? That is the really important stuff, which I don't think people get.
That's a small detail again, but I was never coached that. No. Never ever coached that. You kind of have to pick it up, or you're out of the team. You don't survive.
Were you getting that from Tommy Burns?
Not that level of detail, but that's like an experienced top player who's played at the highest level, giving you the things that he's seen in game over experience over a number of years. But I think that's priceless. I think that's priceless for a young player to be told that, and that's information that I would try and give players as well. When I was coaching at Airphoenix, for example, I would try and give that as well and go, this is what I done in that situation, but you're different. Everybody's different, but here's a little thing that might help you.
Because even for the winger situation, I mean, Aiden could go by people with his pace. He could go by with trickery and all those kind of things. But I'm sure he realised at times, and maybe someone that's not got that type of pace, a younger player that you're trying to educate, they don't actually need to beat a player, do they?
No.
Half a yard, hit areas. Really, really important for wide players.
John Souttar played last night, as we know, for Scotland. Is he made his way back into the Rangers defence? I think I know what you're going to say, but he's not in the starting 11.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
Still
Paul.
Going with Fernandes.
And again, listen, the big clubs going for titles. We're talking about now Hearts, Celtic, Rangers, and all sorts of stuff. Does Souttar, yes, he played for the national team. Does he fall straight back into Rangers on the back of what they've done leading into the international break? For me, no. And that competition has to be like that. That's healthy. That's going to drive standard. That's hopefully going to get you the goals that you're looking for, which is to win titles. So to answer your question, Paul, I don't think he comes back into the starting 11, no.
Craig got a question last week. Someone was on saying, what about Jack Butland? What do you really think? Is he going to... Will Rangers win the title? But we're looking at a number of positions. And I think you said, Craig, that it's an area that...
Concerns me.
Yeah, it concerns you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we touched on goalkeepers in terms of a lot of them got to be mad to be a goalkeeper and all sorts of stuff. Jack doesn't strike me as that, but listen, it's a position that unfortunately you make a mistake, you're picking it out at the back of your net. And I feel, unfortunately, that Jack, as good as a goalkeeper that he is, and the saves that he's made and what have you, I always have the feeling that there's a big mistake in him, and that's a concern for me.
Aiden?
Yeah, look, I know exactly what you're saying, Craig. He has had some errors this season, but then I'd probably flip it and go, how many points has he maybe saved Rangers this season as well? And look, he has been one of Rangers' best players over the last couple of years. Again, who replaces him now?
Well, yeah, I mean, Liam Kelly's here that hasn't played a lot of games. Yeah,
and Barry threw him in last year, around this time last year, wasn't it? April.
Kelly, yeah.
And he did all right.
Just the importance of you look. All these teams are trying
a
to
strong
win.
goalkeeper.
They're all trying to win a title, right?
Exactly.
So what is important in our experiences of winning things? Goalkeeper is an absolute must be. Not no mistakes, but winning your points rather than losing your points.
So what in the big three then? So obviously Sholo at Hearts. What do you make of him? Because I'm thinking of the three keepers. Let's say
going into the last furlong.
Yeah.
I think
Sinisalo's not bad.
Sinisalo's has performed well.
Yeah,
since he came in. I think it was a good move from Martin. Obviously, a young, hungry goalkeeper who's waited for his chance for a long time, and he's performed very well. Been one of Celtic's best players, I would say, in the last since he got in the team. But going back to that, for me, it's the spine of your team. It's the spine of your team. It's your central midfielders, it's your strikers, isn't it?
Yep. Absolutely. And listen, so you go through the goalkeepers. that you're gonna go through. So Sinisalo, I agree. I think he's a good goalkeeper. I think he's a great shot stopper. He's got a presence.
Help you to win a title. So that's what I'm going to ask all three.
Can he make a mistake with his feet? Yeah. Can he overplay it? And this is the thing. I think the three goalkeepers, the ones that, listen, they all make saves. They can all make saves, right? Yeah. Decision making. And it's going to be decision making with their feet. When are they deciding to play out from the back and all that sort of stuff? Because that's what's costing teams. Right, and when you get into, I said, the last furlong, Paul, where every minute matters, every game matters. Don't make decisions that are going to invite trouble. Don't hand out any gifts.
Yeah, it's hard though, because obviously the Celtic Rangers game, Celtic were trying to play out, weren't they? And they couldn't play out. Yeah. But you're looking at Sinisalo going, he probably does want to kick the ball long, but he's been told to try and play, isn't he? Okay. I think. So anyway.
here's a question for you, Aidan. Have you ever done something?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're all coached and we're all told to do certain things, but within that 90 minutes of football, big decisions are having to be made. Sometimes you override what you've been told because it's not going to end up in the back of your net.
And you're allowed some flexibility as well.
Well, you'd like to think so.
You're on the pitch, aren't you?
Right, next caller, Gordon Strachan on the line. Aidan, what managers don't like, or do they? Maybe sometimes they go, right, I see what you're doing. And they're okay with it.
I think you're allowed a degree of leeway on the pitch because you are on the pitch, and not everything can be patterns of play where everything in training is scripted. 90 minutes is never like that. So, but that is the onus is on you to make the decisions on the pitch. But yeah, it's I think when I was watching the Celtic Rangers game, I was like, Sinisalo doesn't look like he wants to play out here because he can see that Rangers' press was quite good and they were taking the ball off them. But again, like, if you don't do what the manager says, then you might not be in the team. But then he's playing well. So
Celtic fans don't want it either, do they?
Not at the minute. No, not at the minute because like the team are getting caught on the ball. Especially it wasn't so much like that against Dundee United. I think Martin and Sean maybe said, look, we can't do that in this pitch. But Celtic haven't really done that this season, apart from maybe under Nonsi to an extent, where they were overplaying. But again, nobody was putting up with that because the results were poor. So.
Who was that? Nonsense. That 33 days it keeps coming up for Celtic. So Sholo, good keeper. Craig Gordon, obviously the backup, but he's injured at the moment. Sinisalo at Celtic. What did you feel, Aidan, about the Schmeichel situation in that? I mean, it looked as though he played it for him. Listen, he was a terrific goalkeeper, made a lot of great saves for Celtic, double winner last year as well, all the rest of it. But this season, do you think, at the end, it was strange the way the announcement with his dad's, CBS, Celtic weren't mentioned?
No, I wasn't a fan of it. And look, I think it took the club by surprise as well because you listen to Martin's press conference and he was like, well, I didn't know what was going to happen. That for me is that's going behind the club's back, to be honest with you. And by the way, the club have stood by you, knowing fine well that you probably are playing with an injury. And I was getting the feeling that they knew he had an injury, but they didn't know the extent of it. He was possibly keeping it under wraps. And then listen to the way he spoke about it. He just spoke about Denmark in the World Cup. Denmark don't employ you. Denmark don't pay your wages. I was quite shocked by it, but then I got a little bit of stick for saying that, you know, we get dropped against Rangers. That there was this. The rumour was that he was ill, and I was like, he's not ill. He's not ill.
Yeah.
And by the way, the club are protecting him.
Yeah, sure.
So the club have protected him.
Of course.
To then do that, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. But look, I think that's probably been dealt with in house.
Yeah.
Because I think he was back at training, wasn't he, a few days later?
Yeah.
In a kind of coaching capacity. But no, I didn't like it. I felt it was a little bit self-centered and all about him and his ambitions of playing at the World Cup.
And Sinisalo, do you think 7 games to go? Well, plus the cup games as well. So I think it's good. What do you feel about him? Would be
like
good.
I said I like him.
Yeah.
I like what I've seen of him so far. I think he's, even in the games before that where he would come in for the odd cup game, he performed very well in those games as well. Albeit it's difficult to get a gauge on a backup goalkeeper when they are playing in smaller cup games, but he's come in and he's not really made any mistakes, which I think that's the thing that people were looking at Kasper Schmeichel this season and saying, is he the same goalkeeper? Is he playing with injury? It looks like he can't
You
dive.
could see it,
He's
couldn't
right.
you?
Yeah, you could see it.
Sinisalo did have an outstanding game. Was it the Aberdeen game? It was an outstanding save. And listen, keepers, we tend to forget the great saves, don't we? And it's the fumbles that.
They make. Yeah, unfortunately, it's their position, Paul, and they remember for their mistakes more so than potentially the top bin that they save it. But you can see when a goalkeeper comes in and has an air of confidence about themselves. You can also see flip side of that is someone where you go, oof, let's keep firing the ball into the box here. Let's keep testing him because butterfingers and all that sort of used to throw all those kind of things about. You know what I mean? But I've
not heard that for ages. Aiden, have you butterfingers?
But you know what I mean. But again, this is part of the game on the field as well. That maybe doesn't happen as much, but you can sense if a goalkeeper's nervy. Sinisalo doesn't and hasn't looked like that. He's come in, he's looked quite calm, he's looked collected, and he's certainly done a good job. Yeah.
Thomas has been on, a Hibs fan in California, saying, how's it going to go, Hibs against Hearts? Can you imagine the opportunity for Hibs to get one over the Hearts, and also if Hearts are going for the title?
Yeah. Like Hibs have had it's been a funny season for Hibs, hasn't it? Building on the success that David Gray had last season. And I seen a stat as well, and it was like, I think Hibs have only finished back-to-back top 6 once. It was like 15 years since they've done that. And I was reading that going, that can't be true.
Yeah.
For a club like Hibs to be outside the Celtic and Rangers, you'd be putting Hearts and Hibs together for the last 10-15 years. But it's been a funny season for Hibs. Like, I know that they'll be in the top 6 and they'll have big games coming up, but I don't know if David Gray's way of playing that he introduced at the very start of his tenure was working very, very well. I think teams have slightly cottoned onto that a wee bit because it is it's direct, it's wide, get balls in the box.
Get the ball in
and look, I think that's what
you
you had to do.
Yeah.
That's what you had to do. But I think teams are sussing them out to an extent. But the game against Motherwell, I was at that game, and they defended very, very well against Motherwell for a team that are totally fluid and rotational and got so much praise this season. But it was just going forward. They didn't have a lot going forward. But it'll be a massive one for Hibs if they can manage to do that. And look, the last couple of games against Hearts, Hibs probably have been the last couple of games. I'd probably say in the last year, Hibs have been the better team on those derby days.
Yep. And they won the last one, didn't they? Yeah. And of course, it was so close in the early one. Quick break and then we're back. 0808 17 17 700.
The Go Radio Football Show with Burger King.
Countdowns on to the weekend and in the Championship, some great games. Ayr United against Partick Thistle, Arbroath St Johnstone, two of the biggest games. Dunfermline against Morton. Leslie Ann back in town. She's predicting a Morton win. And Ross County against Airdrie. She was in your chair earlier just doing the sound check. Yeah. Some say she was talking more sense. No, she was in mine talking much more sense than I was. She's a huge Morton fan. No. She wouldn't dare. So that's the
How
Championship.
big's that game, by the way?
Which one?
Ross County Airdrie.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Massive.
Yeah.
With their positions on the table.
Yeah.
Ross County we mentioned earlier on it, but look, it happens, doesn't it? Sometimes, occasionally, you just drop down the divisions. It happens down south, not so much up here.
No, it's strange this happened because I think I still know that Ross County still have like the biggest budget, one of the biggest budgets in that league. To then come down, and they actually they recruited quite well, I think, for the players that they did add for the Championship as well. To then be so far off the pace, and potentially looking at relegation. And then obviously we go back to Ayr United as well. I didn't realise Ayr United were only 7 points above.
That's right,
above Ross County,
yeah.
but that goes to show that the
run that you're
run of
talking
form
about.
is poor.
And for so long, the chat was about the playoff.
Yeah.
Ayr near the top, then playoff position, then it was slipping and slipping. Yeah, Roy up there at Dingwall must be tearing his hair out. Tomorrow night, Mark and Peter will be here. So, yep, Mark Weedy and Peter Grant on the programme tomorrow night. We're talking about the keepers. We're talking about the teams at the top. Rangers, Hearts at the top. Rangers second, Celtic in third spot. For Celtic, Araujo sounds as though he could be back, Aiden, before the end of the season. He's obviously back down to Bournemouth for treatment, but do you think he's going to be back to play a part in the title race?
Again, it's all hearsay, isn't it? It's rumours that we're hearing, but look, out of the... Coincidentally, he was one of Nancy's signings, wasn't he?
He was.
He was
That's
one of
right.
Nancy's signings. So,
yep.
out of the kind of recruitment in January, he has been one of the successes, I think.
Yep. The fans love him, don't they?
The fans love him for the antics after the Rangers game, which I think I enjoyed anyway. I enjoyed, but a lot of people didn't. But I think you always get that with loan players. They come into a new club, and sometimes it just fits, doesn't it? Sometimes they take a real liking to the place, a real shine to the place. The fans buy into them. So far, look, but again, Alistair Johnson, is he going to be back soon as well? So Araujo might be playing back up to him. I think he will be. Alistair Johnson's he is the number one right back. So, but so far, like he's been impressive. He's been impressive since he came in. It'd be a big boost, I think, to have back, because Celtic are light at the minute in that position.
Like, it's just got a flashback when you were talking about loan players coming up and like really kind of embracing and enjoying it, because Celtic and Rangers, they're massive clubs, aren't they? And some players, like, that might be the highest level that they ever get to, and it might only be a short-term loan and all that sort of stuff. Araujo, I don't know what the situation's going to be. Remember Andy Dibble back in the day? He come
Officer
in.
Dibble.
Andy Dibble, come on. He wasn't at Rangers very long. Ended up winning a title, had the best time of his life, and then he was back down the road again. But just goalkeeper,
That's
Andy
right.
Dibble. Yeah, it was a 9 in a row season. Funny enough. Wow. Come in, they plugged him in.
Who was injured?
The goalie, Andy
Well, I
Gordon.
know, but Andy Gorham, yeah, exactly, the goalie. Sorry,
Andy
of course.
Gordon, but in terms of just come up, like, because Celtic and Rangers are huge
I know.
clubs, and people still to this day, Paul, underestimate it, in my opinion.
And do you remember Andy Gorham went to Man United?
Yes,
Very well.
that's
Fergie
right,
took him in.
Yeah.
Henrik Larsson went there.
Yeah.
But
Henrik
good
Larsson
on
also.
Andy Gorham, because you can imagine in England, the thing people said about him up here was, what a keeper. And he wasn't the tallest, was he? He was 5'11",
He was
which
not,
for a goalkeeper.
yeah.
But he played at Man United as well. He played cricket, didn't he, for Scotland?
Scotland. But,
Amazing.
But
Yeah.
the size of the two football clubs.
Yeah.
You come up here and you what's the word? You don't respect, or you're a little bit uneducated. Like, I think Russell Martin struggled because, again, there was this maybe didn't understand the size of the football club, the pressure every single day. I'm a non-player now. I have been for nearly 20 years. Right, every day in Glasgow that I'm here, someone's speaking to me about Rangers or about Celtic every
day.
single day. Every day. I think people underestimate that.
Underestimated.
Yeah.
And I think that's 100% right what you're saying there. So I think Araujo isn't getting that exposure. He's not getting that at Bournemouth. He's not getting that where he's playing in
no
America.
chance.
And he's coming into Celtic and he's going, this is
Wow.
amazing.
I know.
Imagine this is Champions League football.
Sure.
Imagine what it'd be like then. 60,000, you're playing Celtic Rangers games, you're winning on penalties. It's exciting. Players aren't exposed to that down south unless you're at a top team.
Of course.
And they massively underestimate the game up here.
And that's where the Schmeichel thing was. I think people in Scotland would say, come on, mention your club. And it's not just a club, it's a massive club. We've got two of the biggest names in European football, and they're big names in world. Well, they're names in world football.
But people know the clubs across the board,
Or where else could you go to? If you played for Man City, could you go to Australia and sell out a stadium with actual Man City fans?
No.
You could do that with Celtic and Rangers.
Absolutely.
You can do that in America. It's
Yeah.
worldwide brands.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
They do.
Sure.
It's not spoken about enough how big the size of the clubs.
Probably Celtic. That's a great point. Celtic, Rangers,
Mhm.
Man United,
Man United.
Liverpool,
Yeah.
Liverpool, Real Madrid.
Yeah.
of course, Real Madrid, Barca.
Barca.
But I think that's more to do with the calibre of player that the people are going to see,
Yes.
as opposed
Yeah.
to actual Celtic fans and Rangers fans who have maybe immigrated to these
Yeah.
places.
Yeah.
You can go to Las Vegas. You can go to Las Vegas and there's
Of
a Celtic
course,
function on.
exactly.
There's a Celtic party on. That doesn't happen for anybody. It's
Do you
not a
go
Real
for-
Madrid party, isn't it?
Yeah. Have you done those? Have you gone over?
No, I've not actually.
Have you
I'm
done
still
them?
playing.
No, I have
Yeah.
done one, but we're talking earlier on about the possibility of Aiden signing at Perth Glory. They've got, I'm pretty sure, I know they've got a Rangers supporters club there. There'll be a Celtic supporters club there.
100%, yeah.
Every state in Australia, there's that connection and the supporter groups. It's incredible.
Amazing. Some of the supporters clubs used to get together, didn't they? In some parts, my friend Pierce used to do that was it in Texas? You
Yeah.
would bring the Celtic and the Rangers clubs together,
Yeah.
and they would
Convention.
watch it.
Oh,
And
okay.
they would watch
Together.
and they would watch the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was out in Azerbaijan for a under 21s game with Ireland once, and my dad was like, "Oh, the Azerbaijani Celtic Supporters Club wanting to meet you." And I was like, "It's not an Azerbaijani Celtic Supporters Club." I was.
It's incredible, eh?
Really?
I was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Who's going to be the manager next season? What do we think? So we know, Jens Bertel Askew has been mentioned more than a few times, but I think a lot of people at Celtic like him. And I'm hearing more and more Robbie Keane's name being mentioned. So, and obviously Martin O'Neill. If Martin, well, even no matter what happens now, if he wanted to go again next season, Aidan, what's your feeling just now? April the 1st. But by that, I don't mean the
April 1st.
Yeah, I know. Start
With
of
the old
April.
jokes, was
I
it?
know,
With the old
exactly.
folks?
Yeah.
I think you'd be leaning probably towards Robbie Keane in terms of like he's had a fantastic record as a manager. He's short spell as a manager. He's won something every season. He's been a manager so far. Went abroad. I think he was in Israel. Now he's in Hungary. I think got to the last 16 Europa League last season. He's proven so far in his short spell as a manager that he's got what it takes. I think to manage a big club. Listen, he played at Celtic as well, which goes into, of course, the Irish connection. Dermot Desmond being Irish as well, would always lean towards the Irish connection. I think he probably is the best candidate for the job, but then you'll have a lot of people saying Askew from Motherwell, who's been mentioned a lot as well. The one with Askew I'm just unsure of is because he did take a little while to get going at Motherwell with his style of play. You could see what he was trying to do, but and I always say like it's probably no different to Nonce, for example. Everybody knew what he was trying to do, but you don't get 10 games at Celtic. You don't get 10 games to implement your style of play. It has to be day one. And that would be the only thing that I think might go against Askew. But is he the best option? Listen, he's proven in the SPFL that he's able to do a lot with inferior players to Celtic. So imagine what he could do with the Celtic players.
Paul, I don't think it's a must, but I think it's a huge advantage if you get somebody that has had some kind of experience here. I really do. So whether it was Askew that went to Celtic, he knows all the stadiums now. He knows all the players. He knows the league inside out. He goes into Celtic. No disrespect to Motherwell, he goes into better players. Maybe they can hit the ground running. With a pre-season and all those kind of things. Robbie Keane, absolutely. I mean, the record that Aiden sort of like went through. He's shown that he can do it. He's coached at a decent level. He's won things. He knows the club. The one that I've always been interested in, and I don't know whether there's any traction behind it, is Martinez because of Maloney.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I don't know whether there'd be any traction with that.
What about Craig Bellamy? His name,
Craig Bellamy
obviously, Wales not
also
going to the
an-
World Cup now, so and he's been. I see Joe Ledley has been saying the last 24 hours, get Craig Bellamy.
I think the Martinez one definitely has legs in it, but that will depend on. I think a lot will depend on Maloney's role next season. Whether Maloney's still going to be in the coaching staff or whether he's going to step back and possibly be director of football. I think that will depend on that. But as Hugo Martinez he's managing at a World Cup with Portugal. Sometimes managers get comfortable being an international manager, don't they? As opposed to day-to-day stuff every single day. You're seeing the lads for 2 weeks, 10 days at a time, every couple of months, getting paid very well.
Sure. Ultimately, it'll be what Dermot Desmond wants, and the word is it'll be Robbie Keane. Listen, who knows what happens between now and then? Listen, we're in the last 90 seconds. The 3 big games. Do you expect anyone to lose at the weekend of the big 3? So
I don't.
Craig, no.
I don't know.
Hearts to win, Rangers to win, Celtic to win. Aidan?
Yeah, look, I think Dundee's a difficult game. Celtic have already lost there this season.
Sure.
And coming off the back of the Dundee United game, it's slightly different conditions. It'll be a far better pitch, but yes, I expect a reaction from Celtic, but I'm wary of it.
Okay.
Celtic can't afford another slip up at this stage of the season.
St Mirren Aberdeen, the Stephen Robinson match. Who's going to win it? Craig, what do you think?
I'm going St Mirren because I thought Aberdeen were really, really poor against Rangers.
Motherwell Falkirk, what do you reckon?
The battle of the football and teams at the minute. I would go Motherwell. I'd go Motherwell for that, but I do like Falkirk as well.
And Hibs Killie.
I actually fancy Kelly.
Killie,
Do you?
fancy Killie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Killie, the fight to stay up.
and they've produced a few good performances and results the last few weeks. So,
by the way, and if they go the way that we said, and if Killy get a win and St Mirren get a win and Aberdeen get beat, then that would be 3 of them on 30 points.
Listen, both of you, thank you.
It's
Very
interesting.
international week, and we had Aussie International, Irish International. Really enjoyed the last couple of hours. Thank you, Aidan.
Cheers, Paul.
As
Thanks a
well.
lot, Paul.
Great. Tomorrow night,
Thank
Peter
you.
Grant will be here, along with Mark Guidi. Will be here live at 5. The news is next, and then it's Jokel Day.